key developments on transitional justice and reconciliation is the formation of the organ of national healing, reconciliation and integration, which was formed in 2008 in the aftermath of the 2008 elections. They were violent, and then the most interesting aspect of the organ is that it also addresses the pre-independence and also the post-independence conflicts that happened in Zimbabwe. So it was formed in order to address the atrocities that were committed during the elections, and also it also addresses even other conflicts that were happening in Zimbabwe. It was also fraught with challenges just because of the political climate and also the framework, the way it's sort of like there are loopholes within the framework itself, within the organ, so those still need to be addressed. So it hasn't done much in terms of reconciliating people in Zimbabwe. The best practice with regards to reconciliation, given the Zimbabwean situation, I think it has to do with impunity. It's high time people who are violating or people who are responsible for crimes are brought to trial or are brought to, to face also their crimes, and also there has to be an acceptance on the part of the government of the wrongdoing in order for Zimbabwe to move on. And I also feel that there should be countrywide consultations. They should also consult the victims, also the perpetrators, and also the community in order to find a way of moving forward in terms of reconciliation in Zimbabwe, rather than doing it on a top level. It should be a bottom-up approach, and also consultation with the grassroots is very important in order to have like a best practice when it comes to reconciliation in Zimbabwe. When it comes to the best practice, I feel that we can borrow. We have a lot to learn from other reconciliation or transitional justice processes in different countries. For example, like in Rwanda, they had the gacaca, the gacaca is one of their transitional justice process. Also, Zimbabwe has a lot to learn from the gacaca. There are certain elements we can take from the gacaca and even from the transitional, from the Truth Commission in South Africa. Like from the gacaca, it was a traditional and modern way of sort of like approaching or looking for reconciliation. So we as Zimbabweans also, we can try to use also our traditional methods in reconciliating people in Zimbabwe. For example, the chiefs, they've always been key in trying to address conflict or violence, and also in trying to bring in people together in the communities. So also we could try and see how we can use our chiefs in Zimbabwe to be part of these processes. We need also to have separation of power from the executive, the judiciary, and also the legislation. As long as there's no separation of power, as long as the judiciary is not independent, we can't, it's almost impossible to have reconciliation in Zimbabwe. So it's one of the best practices that I feel should be done. Impunity, I think impunity. Human rights violators are always getting away with their crimes. So maybe it's high time we come up with a system, or even with a transitional justice process, to address impunity, and also to strengthen the frameworks that are already in existence in order to try and see how we can move forward, how we can reconciliate Zimbabweans. And also there's a certain there's a regeneration or re-emergence of violence that we are seeing these days, especially on social networks, like the young Zimbabweans who were very young, or some of them who were not born, especially during the Gukura Wundi. But like when you follow the social networks, there's a re-emergence of conflict or violence between the young generation, and that shows how intergenerational trauma should be addressed. It's something that needs to be addressed, and because the past human rights violations were not addressed, and it seems there's nothing that is happening right now in order for them to be addressed. So now these are the sort of like the effects of not addressing our past. So we should look at our past in order to shape the future. So that should be done in Zimbabwe in order to move forward.